Let's check that mic. Oh, wow. That is a nice groove right there. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 5. If you're paying attention to the stream on Twitch, it's stream 365. I've been around the block, man. I'm not too old on Twitch. I've been streaming on Twitch for just over a year, I think. Yeah, but 365 streams is no joke, man. 1 year if you put them all together, right? All right, so welcome to the show, guys. I'm gonna turn Spotify down just a little something here. Yeah. So hope you guys are having a great day. We're gonna do this again, where we do what we do around here, which is talk to completely random people. I have no idea who I'm gonna talk to on the internet. It's as simple as that. It's gonna be something. I'll tell you that right now. I had a great talk yesterday. Absolutely fantastic talk with Real Talk and Jazz Keys. All right, and unfortunately the connection dropped from Real Talk yesterday, and so we lost in sort of mid conversation. We lost a connection with him. So that kind of sucked, but that's okay. Maybe we can get him back sometime, all right? He's an interesting guy. He had a lot to say. It was a great philosophical chat that we were having there, and I was trying my best to wrap my head around what he was talking about there. You can find this podcast on Spotify and Google Podcasts and a lot of other platforms. Soon Apple, as I understand. I'm using Anchor to distribute, so whenever Anchor gets around to distributing to all the platforms is when it happens, but it should be available all kinds of crazy places now, which is fantastic. So lots of ways to talk, lots of ways to meet, lots of ways to listen. Do you know what I mean? If you want to participate in the show, you can come to the live stream on Twitch. Just search Archaeologistic on Twitch and go ahead and give a follow so you'll get a notification when we're live. If you're so kind as to drop your free Amazon Prime subscription on me, that would be amazing. Doesn't cost you anything. That helps the show out a lot. Or install stereo on your phone. And then you can sort of audio interact. You can talk to us, you know, so that's really fun. That's a great way to pay attention to the show as well. All right, so participation, I love hearing what you guys have to say. You bring a lot of value and insight into the show, so I really appreciate it, and I'm having a lot of fun doing this, guys. I don't mind telling you, this is a blast. Just talking with random people from around the world, learning so much, and just finding out how things are in different countries, how different places, different walks of life, you know. People bring their experience and their stories, you know. I'm loving it. I love, you know, I got a soft spot for talk radio since forever, so it's kind of like that. It feels like that, you know what I mean? Somebody said to me, wow, you're doing the Art Bell thing, and I'm like, oh, whoa. Art Bell is the god of talk radio, so don't put me in the same class as Art Bell, okay? Don't do that, because that guy, if you don't know who Art Bell is, guys, just do a quick search on YouTube. You'll find like sort of the best moments of Art Bell, and it should blow your mind. He was incredible, this guy. So yeah, that's enough Art Bell plug there, man. Yeah, amazing dude, right? So go over the ground rules really quickly. I don't talk to kids. I try my very best not to talk to minors. If I notice that someone sounds very young, I will just swipe them away, and it's no disrespect. I just don't want to put your kid on a live stream or a recording of a podcast without the parental consent, and so I'm trying my very best to filter that. This is an unfiltered experience, though. We're literally put with anybody on the internet, so if you are easily offended, or perhaps there's subjects that you don't want to hear about or interact with, by all means, go listen to something else, okay? It's not going to hurt my feelings, and I'd rather you feel comfortable, so keep that in mind, all right? This is a random experience, so put your seatbelt on and just understand that anything goes, all right? I do my best to keep it clean around here, but there's only so much I can do. This is a one-man show, right? So, hold on, Spotify, come on now. You're yelling at everybody. Settle down there. Just settle down. All right, and I guess the last ground rule is try and keep an open mind is what I'd like to say. This particular episode is just you never know what you're going to hear, right? And so if you want to feel like interacting, let's be respectful to our guests, whoever that may be. All right. I certainly try to be. And I realize that everybody's got a different story, you know what I mean? And we're all in different parts of our lives, different places in our lives. And that's what this show is all about, is sort of showcasing that, right? And it's surprising how the average person is not so average. And it's really great to get into somebody and what they're all about. And they help me understand things. They'll teach us something. They'll share something about their lives. Yesterday, we learned a lot. Learned a little bit about teaching in the UK, learned a little bit about a personal COVID story, you know, which I mentioned yesterday, that it's getting to a point where we seem to know more people who have contracted COVID, but it's not so common just yet. Not a lot of people are hearing personal experience stories, right? And it's funny, if you search it online, you might come up with some things, but hearing it straight from the person in real time, live, you can't beat that, right? That's a moment, right? So I appreciate the sharing of that. All right, Jazz Keys, you're amazing. It was awesome talking with you yesterday, and we really do hope you feel fantastic. All right. So, with that out of the way, you guys want to do this? I think we should do this. The stream is live on Twitch. Keep that in mind. You go to twitch.tv and search Archaeologistic. You can't miss it. And that's a great way to watch the show, listen to the show. You can listen and participate on stereo while that's on your screen somewhere, just muted on the screen. So you're watching and you're listening and yeah, all that fun stuff. All right. Let me check the audio real quick. Let me check the audio. Oh yeah, it's fine. Come on. My setup's a little complex, digital mixing boards and all kinds of things integrated into this, and so I try my best not to change the settings from day to day, because if I do, you never know what's going to happen the next time I press go live, right? So, yeah, all right. We're going to do it. Our first call of the day. Let's see how it goes, all right? Let's see who's on the other line. And let's do it. Finding you a chat partner. Little drum and bass. If you like what you hear, this is Twitch Arjuna Beats on Spotify, is a royalty-free. How's it going, Doc?
What's good, Archaeologic?
Hey, buddy. Yeah, I got a bad username, man. You can just call me Arky. You can just call me Arky. It's all good. How you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm great. I refuse to accept being anything less.
Right on. All right. I'm live on Twitch at the moment, and I just open up the stereo app and come talk to some people. You know what I mean? So I'm interested in what you got to say. I'm interested in any kind of experience you might want to share with me.
I see you out here traveling these stereo streets. Well, one thing I will have to say, you know, I got a show I got to get to shortly here, but one thing I definitely want to say and remind the minds of the people is that wholeness and balance is the key.
Okay, how do you mean?
We get fragmented. Well, we get fragmented in our different inclinations to cling to ideological identities,
that is
things
true.
Like that, and that breeds everything from racism to sexism to all the isms of the world, you know. And what most people don't realize is that life is like a 1,000-piece puzzle. You know, you pull all the pieces out and you think it's chaotic, right? And everybody picks their individual piece, and They sharpen the edge of it, then they use it as a weapon to attack everybody. But when you put all the pieces together, you see the big picture.
Doc, that's
wholeness and balance.
That's beautiful, man. I mean that. That is a message of unity and compassion and all understanding each other. You know, I was talking yesterday with some people on stereo there, and I really try to focus on celebrating our differences. When someone's different than me, there's a lot of potential for good in that too. You know, I think a lot of people sometimes focus on, they gravitate towards things that are the same as them. You know what I mean? And it's an uncomfortable place sometimes to go to a place where things are not the same as you know, but I think I really want to celebrate
And
that, you know, and someone's different than me. It actually, it brings me value. It brings value to my life, right? Or at least I try to
absolutely,
maintain that
actually,
attitude.
I would want to piggyback on that and try and draw people's attention, because wherever the wherever thoughts go, energy flows. So draw people's attention to the fact that what we perceive as differences are not actually differences at all. They're they're appearing to be different, but they're different expressions only of the same thing. Because ultimately, all beings on the planet, all life on the planet, is of one source. So it may be expressing itself in a different manner for a different purpose, for a different realization, but truth is that is all whole, is all one.
Yeah, man, unbelievably beautiful concept. Listen, I just went live, and you're the very first person I've talked to today, and you have started my day off in a way that I can't thank you enough, man. Something like that is like, it's too good for me, man. So I appreciate that for sure. Yeah, you talk about all walks of life and all manner of life, and you know that's really true. If some people are very empathetic towards animals in a way that it's another level, like they really feel a connection with it and respect and compassion with animals, and it's something that other people, for example, they don't feel that at all. It doesn't seem to connect with them, you know. Maybe that open mind, like you're talking about, maybe just understanding the connection of things is key to that concept, you know.
Yeah, it's very key, man, because we have to realize that our mindset, our projection in life is in most cases not even our own. You know,
How do
it
you mean?
was an indoctrinated input, meaning that your mind and your brain collaborate together and work exactly how a CPU works. In fact, they built all technologies and CPUs off of the brain and the mind, right? And a computer only outputs what's been input.
That is
So
true.
systematic ways and mannerisms have been controlling the input and therefore making the determination on the output. So with that being said, if people realize that the major differences that people expound on that causes so much division is only in the language. You spoke of the animals, right?
Yep.
The animals, they have life, they have feelings, they have energies, all the same. And the major difference between what we call humans and animals, because humans are really animals, but what we call humans and animals is the language barrier. And then when you get into different so-called cultures or different dialects and tongues, that's where the confusion comes in at. A person may say this word pertaining to this energy, and another person may say this word pertaining to the same energy. They're different words appearingly, yet they're actually the same energy. So it's very important that people tap in on the unification of things and realizing and dissecting what actually causes this illusion that we call difference or division.
Yeah, man. Just staying with the animal thing, a lot of animals have less muscles in their face, and that's actually a lot of studies been done about dogs and cats in particular, just because they're so domesticated and we live with them on a large scale. But you know, if you notice, some people are dog people, some people are cat people. Dogs have more muscles in their face to express their facial emotions, you could say. Like they're able to shape their face in more ways than a cat. And so a lot of people, they don't connect with cats because they can't see, you know what I mean? Like some people are very visual, you know, and they can't see a smile or a frown, or you know what I mean? And dogs, you can kind of tell when they're smiling, right? And you can kind of tell when they're not feeling so good and things like this. And cats just kind of stare at you, right? It's really there's an old saying that fish don't have feelings, right? Like it's not true.
What I noticed that the issue with that is you mentioned the word visuals. You know,
yeah,
we've been taught to look at everything through what we call the two physical eyes, right? But in reality, we actually only have one eye. We're all Cyclops beings. We have two lenses that view the world in a dualistic mindset.
Oh, wow. That's true. Our mind is the only thing driving the bus, right?
Right. The mind's eye, you know. And so when this one being called a dog, you know, may be expressing itself in certain ways and this other being, yet they're both expressing, the aspects of themselves. And it's not up to you. It's not, but it is up to you how you perceive that. Because I have a common saying I like to say, is cover both of your eyes and tell me, what do you see? For example, you stop taking the world from a perspective that you've been indoctrinated to see it. So you're not actually exercising your own mind. You're regurgitating the mind of others that had an agenda to divert you from that. But if you close both of your eyes and you concentrate on how you actually do see, then we can all see things without being fractionalized in the divisions of what we call our eye.
Oh, I'll tell you, man. I'm getting a little. I'm getting some friction in my mind about the systems of men. Just that everybody's obsession with little rules and stacks of rules, and there's rules for rules, and there's little, and and you could even say that their intention is good, such as to run a successful complex business, you need sort of an outline of how things operate. So there's some rules, and then we're talking about health protocols during the COVID world. That's those are all. The intentions are good, but in the end, we live under so many systems and subsystems and stacking things rules that complement other rules, and it's become crazy. I live in Ontario, Canada. I'm calling you from Ontario, Canada, and I just saw Ontario.ca is our government website for the province, and one of the COVID rules, for example, one of the COVID suggestions to be cool in society is to don't play loud music. It said don't play music at a volume louder than a talking volume. That was one of their suggestions, and I'm thinking, how does that prevent COVID spread? Like, who come up with this one? And that's on my government website, man.
See, it's all coded in the actual words. See, the words
Night
are very
Rider, man.
powerful. Words
Good to see you.
Words determine. So because we don't understand the vibrational frequency and the power of words, that's what causes so much fractionalized thinking. So you use the word rule, right? We're talking about rules. Rule is the base for the word ruler. See, the rules become your rulers. And what a ruler is used for is to measure or to get the dimensions of everything, right?
Love it.
So
you're right.
Everything about life is on a code of sacred geometry. It's called law. You got the length, the angle, and width. There's nothing that exists in the physical world that doesn't have length, angle, and width. And so therefore that is law. But we've been given rules. And instead of realizing that we are the rulers, we are our own rulers. We've accepted external rulers. And therein lies the issue. And that's what you're going to have the results of today. You're going to have a fractionalized world, everybody fighting and defending their ideology, their thing, not realizing that we're all whole at one.
Well, putting a high value on the rules, and that's interesting. You brought up the concept of rules itself, right? And we could replace the word rules with ideology here, or any just sort of like basically philosophy for your own life on a personal experience. I feel like people put a high value on their own interpretations to a point where it closes some doors in understanding other people's perception of how life should be lived. I'm a little older, right? My parents were kind of yuppies kind of thing going on, and that generation, either they loved hippies or they hated hippies. You see, and there's two people with a perspective on life that one felt that working hard and paying into a mortgage and all this stuff was of a high value and this sort of structured lifestyle. And then this other, what we could call the hippies, and I guess I'll use that term loosely, but the other side of it is people who are really open-minded to living in communal style, and they didn't care about mortgages too much, and you know what I mean? Like two totally different lifestyles from the same generation of people, just in my area, and one disrespecting the other. What's that, man?
Excuse me, brother.
No, go ahead, please.
And if you break down a lot of the terms that people use, it will give them a totally different perspective on what they perceive as life. You could use the etymological roots to a lot of things, like even the word like mortgage. Like people don't know the game of mortgage. They don't know how you can pay for a house, so you think, and then you still pay taxes. There's rules to that, and if you understand that, you would understand what's really going on. And the whole systematic structure is set to keep people divided. It don't matter in what angle, what area people must stay divided if people are to be controlled from external sources.
Yeah, but
Because if people actually unite and come together, then that internal energy will kick on, and they'll begin to realize that we are love, we are life.
Doc, it sounds like that implies that someone's driving the bus, that there's somebody who made this plan. There's a plan for that it's intentional. Whereas
that's without a doubt.
Yeah, see, I do put a little doubt on that, man, because I believe that, like the human ego, for example, each individual has their own agenda in life, you know, and yes, we can come together on many levels, but in the end, you know, you're the person who puts your pants on in the morning, you know what I mean? When we talk about governments, when we talk about large structures, and then now we're getting into big rules, you know, now we're getting into the big complex laws and things like this. I don't see how. I've had a really hard time struggling with a master plan in relation to government, in relation to agendas. Sort of when people touch on something like the Illuminati, I've always had a hard time with that, because I'll tell you, man, the Canadian government can barely get my taxes right. They can barely do anything right. Like I can't see how they're able to pull off a complex thing like controlling the hearts and minds of the public over long periods of time. And I just don't. I feel they're more incompetent than that would be possible, you know?
Right. Well, the angle is, it's not from a conspiracy theorist perspective. It's not from a control of a small portion of the masses. Actually, the small percentage that are benefiting from the world, they realize that all the power is actually in the people, right? And I can't actually do anything to the people. I have to convince the people to do it to themselves. And so once I've convinced the people to do it to themselves, then the work is done. Because when you talk about even the term government, it's another way you can break down every word. Government means governing your mentality, right? Something is governing your mentality. So we look to external sources for things that we should look to internally, right? No one should govern you other than you. And that government should set up a structure of laws and policies, statutes, codes, you know, that is about love, that is about wholeness, that is about balance, that is about harmony, that is about, you know,
I think a lot of people achieve that through the rules, though. There's a lot of people who feel comfortable when there is rules, when there's someone in charge. They're not leaders themselves. They don't even of themselves. They feel safe and comfortable in their own lives when they're inside boxes, when they're inside the rules, and then there's someone governing, and they decide the big problems. Someone else will solve them. You know, they feel good about that. They embrace that. You know.
Well, all that is them just not realizing that they have that capability. You know, they're locked out because it has become. You said the word comfortable. It's become. You know, comfort makes people complacent. Because as soon as you're comfortable, you stop striving because you think you're at that point. You think you've arrived, right? So you stop your striving. You start allowing someone else to dictate and determine your stride, right? So I'm not speaking ill or against anything, because the government structure, they have a role to play, and they're playing that role. And everything about every government in every world, the people must realize that it's entirely voluntary, which means that it needs your energy in order to function and to operate.
Yeah, see,
so all it has to do is convince you to apply your energy in a voluntary manner, thinking that you don't have a choice.
Yeah, overlay this over on top of Myanmar right now as an example. We have a military dictatorship kind of thing, you know, and the people are really not loving it, right? That's people feeling empowered. Listening to a lot of BBC interviews and other interviews from other sources, there are some people in Myanmar who are actually supportive of the military. And what they're saying to themselves is that they don't want the democratic freedoms in relation to government. It's not in relation on a personal level, but that they feel that system would be better for Myanmar, right? For them. And it's interesting what you said about sort of personal empowerment, basically, where they don't realize that they have this strength, you know, that they don't need maybe as many systems, or they don't need to rely on those systems for that comfort to feel safe and normal, basically, you know. I wonder how much of the population actually is like that, you know, sort of a sleeping giant kind of thing, you know.
I would say
majority?
The entire populace is a sleeping giant, because everyone has a contribution to make, yet everyone is not expanding or allowing themselves to expand into the realization that they are the populace or that they have the power. The whole mission of depowering people is by making them not be attentive to the fact that they are the power, right?
All
Meaning
right.
that we look to leaders, we look to politicians, we look to structured positions or jobs, which stand for just over broke, J-O-B, just over broke. That's what jobs keep you.
Yeah. Amazing.
So we have a structure that's set out here that depletes the people's energy, and it makes the people reach for an external energy. That's why we're taught to look up to stars, because it's natural to look up into the sky and look at the stars, right? So they classify these people as stars. So we're looking up to them. Now you can put dictate in play for them to play a role, and then the people just follow them, right? And everything is set in play when you do it that way. So we have to start having conversations of empowering people, making people realize and reclaim their power. There's no external power even available to you. Then everything out here in the government structures and the constitutions, the different things, all of that was written off of the living constitution, which is the body, which is the mind, which is the being that we call human or people.
Sure, yeah.
So,
well, I've read a lot of philosophy, and I don't claim to be a master of any of it. But over the years, I've read a lot of sort of the classical philosophy texts, and people have struggled. Like, for example, you and I right now are sort of touching on the concept of ethics, right? Which is the basics of a lot of our law, right? And constitutional rights and things like this. And so, ethics has been a long field of study. Long before Europe, even, like the West is often soaked with only the West's learning, only the West sort of history of thought. But ethics has always been around as long as human beings, and other cultures much more old than Europe, for example, have been studying ethics. And it's really interesting what you said about communication to me, because maybe that's the absolute fundamental way to empower people. Maybe what the world needs, like you suggest, is to have conversation, to start talking. I don't see any other way that it could happen. You have to picture if the answer is not communication, what could possibly do it? I don't know the answer.
Well, the reason why communication is very key is because it's communication that got us in this lower state of being, right? Because what I mean by communication is we have to realize that everything in this existence has a field of vibration or vibrational frequency to it. So words are vibrations, thoughts are vibrations, right? And
Yes.
so the communications that people have been receiving have been dictating how they portray one another. And we're talking about ethics. Ethics is a thing that comes from within. It's the core, it's the collaboration of all of the musical instruments in your body, your eardrums, your heartbeats. We're a living instrument. We're a living musical.
Sure, yeah. We're coming back to the input-output thing again. I'm only really capable of what comes into me is really all I can output, in a lot of ways. Now, if I were to have a truly original thought or an original opinion on ethics, as an example, without any external input, not examples from the past, not teachings from my parents, this kind of certain morals and values from your community or from your family, what you're suggesting is that can happen. That can happen naturally. You can have this level of ethics, for example, without any teachings, without anything. It will naturally happen because it flows from you yourself. Is that what you're trying to say here?
Absolutely, because in most cases, people have those things, but we've been indoctrinated to ignore them or to suppress them because they don't go with the norm. They don't go with the masses. They don't go with the herd mentality. Right.
Sure. I don't have a Canadian criminal code in my heart. There's already one for me, so I don't need to put a lot of thought into the criminal code of any kind, right?
Fact.
Right. The system's already there for me. It's like a crutch almost, eh? I guess it's a bit of a crutch.
Exactly. You just only have to be encouraged to look within, to go back into you, go back into yourself, because there's a gauge. There are scales of justice within inside of your intellect that allow you to weigh whether something is good for the betterment of the all, or bad for the betterment of the all. And this
Well,
is not even to create a gauge of what's good or bad, because what's good for one may be bad for another, and that's a whole nother dynamic of the conversation. But everything, each piece of the puzzle is important, but one is nothing without the rest.
yeah, you see, this is where I don't think I have a problem with what you're saying, but I do have questions about it because think of the most famous philosophers out there who've wrestled with ethics in particular, concepts of right and wrong, okay, concepts of justice, things like this, going all the way back to Plato and perhaps even here in the 20th century. I think like if you contrast someone like Ayn Rand, who would literally feed your children to her dogs if she thought they were hungry, and then another person like John Stuart Mill, where utilitarianism is what is right is what is best for the larger group. Okay, so that idea of justice, that idea of ethics, and applying that to all of your ethics as a general rule, what is right for the group is what's best for everyone, or the majority. What's best for the majority is what's best for society, kind of a concept. I feel like these people, that's what their heart made them write. That's so when we talk about like them writing, someone coming up with their own ethics, someone realizing that the internal voice, you could call it, something that they've achieved this level of thinking on their own. These people came up with them, and look how contrasting it is. One person came up with something vastly different than another person, right? Immanuel Kant, famous work on ethics, of course, fundamental to all of Western thought, and our laws and all the things based on that. I feel like if you let everyone on an individual level think of what is right and what is wrong, I don't think, maybe given enough time, they would all come to the same conclusion. The 1,000 monkeys with typewriters theory, right? That if you just put enough thought into it, you're going to come to what is truly right and what is truly, true, basically. I'm having a hard time, Doc. I really appreciate you chatting with me, man. That's a big idea,
And see, that's the thing. I want it to be a big idea.
Oh, it is a big idea, my friend.
I want it to be so big.
What's going on,
so
Nobs?
Seemingly unattainable, because people are going to begin to weigh in all of the things that have led them to this point, and they're going to balance all of those things and say, well, if you look at it this way, because I found in my travels that for everything that you feel like you can validate, I could find someone else that can unvalidate it, or vice versa.
That is true. That is true, man. Oh my gosh, you're so right about that. By reading some of these philosophy books, and let's put that really loosely, you can find brilliant philosophy in a catalog. You can find it you probably find it in a McDonald's menu. I mean, like if you're really looking for something, the thing to me is that I've personally experienced a lot of value by reading these texts, whether accepting or rejecting the ideas. And this comes down to the communication concept that you said again. I just don't know, for example, if I were to share all of my knowledge and experience concerning the big concept like right and wrong, about justice and ethics and things like this, I'm not sure even if I were to spill it all out and someone were to understand what I'm saying, I don't think that they might come to the same conclusion as me. I feel like fundamentally we will choose differently on a personal, deep level. They'll reject what I'm saying based on their own experience.
I agree,
I guess,
because I agree, because I've walked that walk, and that's why I actually promote wholeness and balance. See, wholeness and balance says that, okay, you feel like it's right, you feel like it's wrong, but you're both part of the whole. Okay, let's see how we can balance that.
Do you mean
that way you get you?
I'm sorry. Do you mean wholeness wholeness in what regard? Just sort of help me with that word there.
Wholeness in the regard of all that exists and must exist for a. I don't want to say purpose.
Sure, but your place in the universe, kind of thing.
Yes, everything has a role to play. Here's the issue that I have, because most people have not been allowed to actually tap into their true self, tap into who they are. Most people are regurgitating things, like you said earlier. Most people have not even had a pure thought.
Oh man, they're watching the Kardashians, man.
Things that they heard from someplace or someone else, and they haven't figured out how to allow themselves to tap into their pure self. Right?
Quoting Honey Boo Boo, quoting Kardashians.
A large percentage of all of the division that's going on. I'm having an audio issue right here. I can't really hear you again. Hold on, let me see what's.
I'm sorry, man. I should be coming through pretty clear. You're coming through just fine to me. Everything's working great on my end. Okay. We are live on Twitch right now, guys. If you want to watch the show, we're talking to Dr. Bay right now. Brilliant guy. I'm really glad to have run into him. We're talking a little bit about ethics and sort of your place in the universe stuff. I don't claim to know a lot about philosophy, but I have over many, many years listened to a lot of philosophy lectures and stuff. There's a lot of lecture series from universities like Oxford, like Boston, like Yale, that you can download for free. And so if anybody sort of likes the ideas that Dr. Bay is talking about right now, that's one place. And maybe a spiritual leader that you have, maybe someone of faith that's another alternative to come to these sort of ideas, right? And sort of discuss them further. But I do encourage people to sort of educate yourself, you know what I mean? And perhaps in all directions. Don't close the door from one just to the other, you know? The Oxford University lecture series on philosophy are a smashing good time when we're talking about the deep ideas like your place in the universe, like what is right and wrong, like the concept of justice, you know. Dr. Bay here is suggesting something that's very fundamental internally, something that's very he's suggesting that you can find this within yourself, and actually really think that's a beautiful idea. I even agree, but I don't see how. Exactly. We're such social creatures, and we feed information to and from each other in a way that, imagine not being a social creature but still coming up with the grand concepts like justice, like right and wrong, like ethics, or even taking all of that out of it and just sort of existence and understanding your place in the universe. I don't know, without society, without interacting with each other, I'm not too sure how I see how it would work so smoothly, you know. So maybe it's easier without society. Well, I don't know, Doc. I don't know.
Well, you know, you have to look at it like once you're you're broadening your mindset to the concept of wholeness. You realize that we're already interacting. We may have just come across each other, but we've still always been interacting. See. And when you tie it into the fact that everything vibrates, okay, I could be on the other side of the world, right, with an energy. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like if you drop a pebble into the ocean, right? People must realize that vibrational, that wave, that frequency flows through the entire body of that water. And that's what life is. And the more we put energy into that realization, that overstanding, that understanding, along with that understanding, you know, it'll assist us. And we were talking earlier about how conversation is very important, because conversation is compiled of words or vibrations or sounds and frequency, right? And that is a key avenue to begin to redirect people to where the answers actually are. For example, you know, a lot of people have been for generations taught education, right? Yeah. And we give a lot of credits to education and the importance of education. Yet if we actually look up the term education and then look up a word, erudition, right? Look up the word erudition. Erudition will give you the definition that you felt education actually means.
Yeah. All right, you're blowing my mind here. Hold on. I love the word, by the way. The quality of having or showing great knowledge or learning. And there you have it. All right, erudition. It starts with an
education.
E, by the way.
Now look up education and tell me what it says.
I will. Here we go. The process of receiving or giving systematic instruction, especially at a school or university.
Now, do you see the difference, family?
Absolutely, I do, man. That's blowing my mind right now, all right? One is about systematic exchange of information, and the other is the quality of having or showing great knowledge or learning. So erudition would be what you would hope is the end product of education. That's what the goal of an education should be.
And you throw hope in there, right?
Yeah.
Because we have been for generations taught that education, or the word education, is likened to what we need to seek. That's because the word education comes from the educational system.
Oh, it's all systems, my friend, and
And
they're
it's not an
wildly
attack
expensive.
on those facilities.
No.
Yet it's just about breaking people to understand the power of words, the power of misunderstanding words. Like people use words to create all.
Oh, you got to mute there, Doc. We lost you for a sec. Gnomes, I do put a lot of emphasis on Plato, and Plato's books are very relevant today, in my opinion. We can get into that another time. I hope we don't lose Doc here. It's gone mute here. While we're waiting for Doc, just to let you guys know that we are live on stereo. We are live on Twitch. If you search,
I have to take this call real quick.
Oh,
I
yeah.
will definitely get right.
You go ahead, man.
Get right back with you, brother, because I
I'd
want
love
to continue this conversation. And
Absolutely. You take the time that you need. I'm here for you. Okay.
all right, brother. I just followed your family, and we're
Right
gonna
on.
definitely build on this.
Right on.
Because-
All right, yeah, mute me. Go ahead, take your call, man. It's all good if you need to. Yeah, so we are live on Twitch. If you search Archaeologistic, you can watch the show while we're interacting here. Right now, we're talking to Dr. Bay with some brilliant sort of philosophy going on here. I'm loving it. Let me tell you something. When I love talking philosophy. Okay, I really, really, really do. I mean, philosophy from a faith perspective, philosophy from a strictly academic perspective, historical perspective. I love it all. Okay, I'm comfortable talking it all. I'm gonna be really honest with you guys right now, though, just to be really, really straight with you guys. I don't have a formal education in this too much, and for all of the reading and listening I've done, and I've done a lot of formal philosophy, like listening to lecture series from universities, reading books, I still am not a master of it. When I watch professionals talk philosophy, like a professional philosopher is a pretty rough gig. All right, it's actually a lot of work. It's not an easy thing, right? So I got a lot of respect for people who have achieved that level of understanding philosophical concepts and discussing them in appropriate ways, discussing them in ways that have value. Let's put it that way, right? And so I hope that when I banter on about this stuff, I really don't. I don't mean to offend anybody, and I really hope that we're going to sort of learn something together. You know what I mean? I try my best. I try my best in a deep world, right? So there's Doc. Are you back, Doc? Oh, maybe not. So this podcast is available on Spotify as well. Archaeologistic Talks to Everyone is available on Spotify and Google Podcasts and all kinds of things like that. So maybe you want to, if you missed something today, if you want to sort of follow up, if you want to hear it again to sort of wrap your head around things, by all means, just go on Spotify. You'll find the chat there. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that there for you. All right. Oh, we're reconnecting with Doc. All right, you know what? We're gonna hang out with Doc for just a minute here. I want to give him the time to do his life there, because I do want to continue the chat there. There he is. Oh yeah, man. I'm glad that worked. I lost a couple calls yesterday and I was sad, so I'm really glad that that paused well for us. So listen, if are you ready? Are you ready to chat? Do you need some more time there?
Well, we can continue on until I'm multitasking at the moment.
Oh yeah, no, okay.
Okay.
Well, listen, man. What you raised a really interesting point on the value of words itself, the strength of words, and the value of what we say, and the words that we choose and the words that we use. The exact definition of words is always a matter of debate, actually, because the two words that you and I just talked about and looked up. Well, there's people who feel that erudition is education, and you've just taught me that they're wrong. There is a distinction, you see, and maybe that comes down to communication again, like we keep coming back to. But I feel like words. I agree with you that words are really, really powerful. There's a lot of meaning to them, and that what we pull from them is on a personal level. So one word may mean something to you and mean something different to me. At what point does that become wrong, though, where one person is right about the definition and one person is wrong about the definition? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I'm gonna slide something that's kind of funny or humor. You know how we're trying to find the meaning of words, and we're looking for the definition.
Yeah.
But we don't look in a definitionary. We look in a dictionary. Dictions and definitions, are they different? And
Definitionary. I thought
what are
they're one and the
dictions?
same.
Right. That's going to take us into, okay, what are actually dictions, since we're looking in the dictionary? Then, so it's a lot of angles that can be applied to a lot of things.
That's true, my friend. You know what? And that now we're getting to something sort of murky waters, because if we question are the definitions that we're used to applying to words and concepts, now the fundamental there's fundamental problems. It may restructure everything, I think, if I start questioning the dictionary itself, for example, right?
And then I would throw a question out there and say, does it need to be restructured if we're living the results of that process over time?
You're
And over
hilarious,
time,
Maddie.
does all of that need
That's
to
funny.
be restructured? Do we need to begin to redefine things? And I can apply that to every aspect of life, and not for the purpose of creating an argument or a debate, because people have been arguing and debating for eons, which is why we have such a chaotic state. But actually have the goal of trying to figure out how to unify all of these things.
Okay, but let's come back. Let's come back to what you were talking about when I first met you here, okay? Because I really, really like it. When we're talking about bringing people together, we're talking about making people whole, in a sense, in a sense that is, like whole with a capital W, I guess. When they're truly understanding themselves and their personal power and their connection with everything else. Do you think that there are multiple ways to achieve that? Or do you feel that there's only one way that we all discover through various means?
Well, I think that ultimately,
I don't have an answer, so I couldn't answer that question myself. I don't expect you to have something really clear, but maybe you got some ideas on that.
Well, I think that ultimately, what we call the end result is the whole, yet the path. I have a saying that I say all the time. I say, many branches, one tree, right? Which means that there are many paths or many ways, or each individual is their own path. Each individual is a thought particle. Yet, is everybody actually an individual? Because no one is actually an individual. When it took two, just physically, we're gonna stay on the physiological aspects.
Okay.
It took two individuals to come together to create one, right? So a lot of times we think of ourselves individualistically, but yet we're actually a collaboration of all things that led to our being, our existence. So we're already whole. It's just a matter of realizing it, or expanding our awareness to accept the realization that we're already whole. Okay. It's not something that we even have to obtain. It's something that we just have to accept and allow.
It already, in a complete way, it already is. It's already true. You're already whole. Now,
exactly.
How do we sort of consider that in relation to like mental health, or someone who is like has physical issues, right? So born with a physical problem, They might say, and this might be society talking more than them personally, but they might say that they're not whole, that there's something wrong, that they can't achieve that wholeness because there's a problem from the beginning, and I mean no disrespect saying that. I'm just sorting about the concept of it,
I fully understand.
Okay.
Because the reason, what I would encourage a person to do is to realize that, first of all, everything about what we call the physiological or the physical world is for experience purposes only. But the real you, the actual you, the true you, is far and beyond before anything in the physical. So we may have physical ailments, we may have handicaps, we may have things physically, and we may think that stuff like schizophrenia or mental issues are things that are mental issues. Yet when we start viewing it from a perspective of wholeness, we realize that all of those things are challenges that are set in play to actually enhance the whole, to realize the possibilities. If everything was going down this road, right, down one path, and everybody said that, okay, everything is great, this is how it should go, right? Then how will we know what's down that path? How will we know what's down this path?
That's true.
Right. So some of us are allotted this aspect. Some of us could run really fast. Some of us could jump really high. Some of us could read very long. Some of us, we have all type of expressions of the one being. We're all expressing it from many different avenues. And then that part of us that gauges to say one is better than the other, therein lies the issue. Not that, this person that may have been born with only one leg, and this is definitely not an attack to anyone. This is just an attempt to try and express how valuable the wholeness concept is.
Right. Okay. Definitely, I agree with you that the concept of wholeness would transcend the physical. It's not based on the physical. In fact, the physical our physical existence in that regard only affects the path, as you were suggesting. It affects how we live, but it doesn't dictate what we are. I think I think that's what I'm getting from that is that. And when you talk about everybody's the same in that regard, that we're all sort of from one tree, as you put it, is a beautiful, beautiful saying. I see that too. I see that there's people in our society who focus on how they think that women are less than men, and then there's other people in society who feel that they're better than this other group, or better than this other individual in one regard or another. And
all of it can be tracked down. You could trace the origin or the source or the energy back to words.
Sure, but see, now that's where Doc. I got to come back to it again. That's where I have a really hard time with this, because without the words, I mean, even when you close your eyes at night and you lay on your little pillow there, you have words going on in your head. Like, you use the words like a toolbox, right? So.
Right.
I can see the fundamental problem, but I don't see how we could not use the words, for example, right?
Right. Like you'll have to, you're searching for a solution. We can see the issue. See, for so long, most people, they put all their energy into expressing what the problems are, because we see the problem. And when we put our energy, we're like, or we have a problem or issue with this or issue with that. Yet we don't put energy into solution-based theories, not theories, just ideologies only. Right? So if we're laying there and we're having these thoughts, right? And every thought has a word attached to it. So now I need to dissect that word. I need to dissect that thought so that I can see, okay, did that come from me? Is that a part of how I need to view this? How many facts do I actually have to this? How does this relate to?
Oh, it's a big idea, my friend.
What I'm feeling.
It would be very hard for me to, I don't want to say microanalyze, but it'd be very hard for me to restructure, or let's put it better, to question the words I use and their definition in relation, the words of my toolbox of words, to question the relation between those and my life, both internal and external. That's a big job, right? And I think you're saying it is. Yeah, I don't think you're denying that. It's just you're waking me up to the idea that when we talk about building a better you, it's not a small thing, man. It's a big one.
It's the grandest of all things. It's the greatest of all things. It's the biggest of all things.
That's right? Beautiful, yeah.
And it's founded in the fact of questioning. See, we could deceive anybody, we could mislead anybody, but you can't really deceive yourself when you're founded in truth and you know the truth of a particular situation, right? So we have to begin to question self, right? Because question is rooted in the word quest, right? We're on a quest.
Right, okay. Okay, but let me ask you this. Do you feel that the average, and let's generalize here, and I'm going to use a big sweeping generalization here. So, no one's a fan of that, and maybe not me either, but do you feel that the average person is capable of doing that work, putting the work in on a personal level, because I know a lot of people, for example, they turn to other people's philosophy, other people's teaching, and I do not mean any disrespect by saying this. I'm just saying that some people, they choose to, they feel like someone else did the work for them, is kind of the personal experience, and so they don't have to put the work in. Do you feel that the average person is capable of truly, I don't want to say like dismantling their reality, you know what I mean? Like,
or reestablishing a new reality. And you used the word capable.
yeah.
Right? I would say absolutely yes, because I feel like any individual, appearing individual, is capable of doing anything that he puts his mind to, right?
Okay.
So he doesn't lack. Most times in situations, we don't lack the ability, we lack the awareness. So anything you expand your awareness to be able to do, you simply do. Think about when you was trying to learn any task in life, right? And before you embarked on that task, you thought like, wow, this is impossible. This is so difficult. This is so hard. Until you accomplished that task, mastered that task, then the next thing you reminded yourself of is that, wow, this was actually so simple the whole time. It didn't just become once you made the awareness, it always was. You just had to become aware.
Right on. Doc, I'm a musician, and so when you brought up that analogy, my mind immediately jumped to learning saxophone. I play guitar, so learning guitar. Learning guitar is a daunting thing. If you ask a lot of people, a lot of people say, I would love to learn guitar. But there is a huge hurdle you have to get over to learn guitar. It takes muscle memory. It takes a lot of dedication to the practice. Your hands hurt all the time. It's like you have to be dedicated to suffering that learning part, you know? And so now I'm wondering, can I use that analogy to what you're talking about, was sort of the rediscovering of the self in a lot of ways. It's already there, right? It's about understanding and unlocking that from within, you know. And is it the same where it's a struggle and your hands hurt all the time, and you know, can I say that it's like learning guitar? Self-improvement and self-awareness is like just like that, where you're gonna suffer. It's gonna suck, but you're gonna do it.
You've been saying it the whole time. You've been expressing it the whole time. How difficult it is, how challenging it is.
It's challenging, buddy. Right? Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So the thing is, we have to accept that challenge. We have to accept that, oh, wow, this is going to be extremely difficult. This is going to be so difficult that it's damn near impossible. This is going to be so impossible that I can't even perceive it. Yet you have to embark on that quest and begin to question, okay, what must I do? Okay, let me learn from this experience. Let me try this.
Right on.
That I take it so heavy over here because I made the effort. Okay, let me take from that effort. I'm not gonna discard the unuseful parts because they may actually become useful later.
Right.
Because right now I don't see the usefulness in it. So I just want to discard. Now who is actually leading my show? Is that ego part of myself that says that if I choose it, then it has to be right? If I picked up this piece of the puzzle, then this is the piece of the puzzle. I mean, we have to begin to see what could be classified as the error in that, but all errors are necessary for any success.
Well,
all failures are necessary for every success.
Oh, I wish my parents felt that way about 20 years ago.
They actually feel that way, just not know how to express it.
No, maybe. I was talking with a gentleman. I was talking with a gentleman named Real Talk here on Stereo yesterday, and you said the word impossible, and he was quick to teach me that. He says, no, it's not impossible. Nothing's impossible. He says it's impossible to you. He says that you think it's impossible. He says,
and only because you accepted that as the reality.
Yeah, and that was his point. Is that he was saying that essentially that what I felt was not something. It was an impossible task, but someone else did think it was possible. He says, well, that's just on you, man. You know, he was quite firm on the fact that he's like, nothing is impossible. It's just that you think it's impossible. You know,
and because you think it's impossible, guess what? It is to you.
Exactly. And honestly, he really opened my eyes to sort of a very, very open-minded concept, which is that reality is it's not what we dictate is true. It's more like reality is everything, and then you choose whether to accept, to focus on, to learn from. You choose what you ingest and don't ingest, and you experience these things. And
based off of those choices, that becomes your.
I'm doing a poor job articulating it, but
because you can make a different choice in a different moment, that'll become a new reality.
Yeah. Wow, man. But here's the thing: is let's talk about the average person again. Let's blanket term that again, the average person, because I'm an average guy, man. You know, I don't put myself in anything other than the average person, like everybody else. Okay. But how then? You and I are talking about some big ideas that I don't believe a lot of people put a lot of thought into. I think a lot more people go home, crush a bag of Doritos, and watch Honey Boo Boo. I think that's a reality for a lot of people, right? They go to work, they come home, they watch hockey, or they, and then they go to bed and they do it all over and over again, right? And I'm not putting that down. That's their lives, and they're living them. You and I were talking about another level of existence, another level of awakening for an individual, and then how that affects the masses, how that affects all of humanity. Like, how do you think we could help people who aren't, this isn't even on their radar, man. They're not even thinking about self-awareness, self-improvement, it's not a conscious thought towards it, right? That's what I'm getting at here. How do you think we can help them,
I was having a conversation earlier, and I mentioned that if we're going to designate something as being a problem, I would say that the biggest problem is that people don't realize that there is a problem, or that something actually needs to be sought after.
Okay. So
this is where
I'm sorry,
the
go
conversation, this is where the mass levels of having these conversations more and more often, having these types of conversations, because the things that we see as common, or things that are engulfed or embraced by the masses, are the things that are common, or the things that more people do, and that comes from a herd type of mentality of thinking that it's safer in the herd.
Yeah, well, we're very social creatures. That's just the fundamental truth.
Safety. And we seek safety in that. So if the masses of the people are going home eating Doritos and sitting at the thing, then we feel like, well, that's the same thing to do. So I'm gonna eat my Doritos too, and then we don't have no issue.
I ate them last night.
And here's where we have to gauge it. We have to me, we have to begin to gauge it from this angle. That if we look at the end results, meaning the right now, you can't really change or alter anything from the past, and you've never been to the future, right?
Okay.
In actuality, all we've done is existed in moment to moment to moment.
Yes.
Right? Every time you get to tomorrow, it's today, right?
Yes. That's true, man.
So,
and that's the reality. That's a lot of people's reality, is there's just this, you're in a river that's flowing, and you're just going down it. There's no swimming involved. You're not doing anything, or your swimming is so ineffectual that you can't change the direction, that's happening anyways, right? I know it sounds a little depressing, but
what if that's what they're supposed to be doing for that moment in order for this to happen? You feel what I'm saying? So basically, it's like working on every avenue you can to try and get out of the realm of external judgment and get into the realm of internal judgment. Because every time you judge a situation, this is why different books and scriptures say that judge not lest ye be judged. It don't say don't judge. Just realize that the moment you judge, you're also being judged, because you're doing the judge of judging yourself by making that.
Oh, yeah, okay, I get that. It's definitely, let's say the judgment as a big concept, the idea of judgment, it immediately opens a two-way street. It's never a one-way street. It's always a two-way street the moment you participate in that action, right?
Duality.
Yeah. It has a dual nature. Judgment is dual, always.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So listen. Basically, then I think what would be best for, let's say everybody needs to get on board with the idea that, like you suggest, recognizing that there is a problem, recognizing that there is a better existence, understanding that you can improve, you can have a better existence, and so maybe just how do we teach people that? You know what I mean? How do we get people engaged with that? Because it's really hard to convince people to do practically anything.
Well,
we get in our comfort zones and we want to stay there.
Well, I would say make no effort to teach people, make no effort to convince people, but actually be it. Become it. And that's the best way you would actually teach or share, because we don't actually learn from external sources. We put on the facade that we're learning something, but when you learn something, you're not adding anything unto yourself. You're freeing what's already there. Most time we go to institutions, we go to books, we go to places, and we think that this external knowledge actually is what I learned from. But this external knowledge
True
just
that,
served as a
man.
reminder, as an activation of you realizing that aha moment that you already knew that the whole time. You just have expanded your awareness to engulf it, and now you realize it.
Man, you have no idea how, on my experience, I know many university graduates. I'm just going to use them as an example. I know I work closely with many university graduates, and I'm not putting them down here. Wonderful people, I love them. But they feel that they're full of knowledge. They feel like there's a high value to what they were taught because they can bibble off all this information. I'm an archaeologist, right? Hence the name, right? And so they're able to really talk archaeology in a level that they're quoting from textbooks, quoting from papers and recent reports on dig sites and things like this, right? And you've just made me sort of, it's basically, it's not of value when we say the word knowledge. It's information that they were able to spit back out, that it went in and now it's coming back out. That's the only value it has.
Knowledge is only valuable, or knowledge is only powerful if it has applications toward wholeness. Here's what I mean by that. You could have knowledge of many things, of anything, right? Yet until you're aware how to actually apply that knowledge and it generate the benefits and the results that you need in order to create a better space, that you can get out of that space and someone else can fall in that space and benefit from it, then it's not really knowledge, right? It's information.
Yeah, right. And that's what I'm getting at here.
Most time we have external sources of information, like books, like colleges, like universities, and somewhere along the line, people forget that individuals put this information, or this, what you're calling knowledge, into this book, and you're allowing a level of trust that you don't even allow for yourself in most situations. You're allowing a level of trust.
No, that's true. I mean, just because it has a big shiny textbook cover doesn't mean that it's of any value at all, right? It can look amazing, but right, it can be very complex language and it's still not smart. There's plenty of books like that. Yeah, and I don't I don't mean any disrespect to someone out there with a university degree. What you did was you invested you invested in yourself to try and go through the system to learn a great deal about any given study that it may have, relate to, right?
This is why I even talk about wholeness. It's not to condemn, it's not to sway. It's only offer enough that people may weigh. Weigh it in their own mind. Weigh it in yourself. Don't take it, your position, your rank, your title, your class, your identity, things of that. Don't take it so into heart to where now you're pedestalizing yourself higher and above, greater or less.
Oh, but these institutions, man, these universities especially, are so guilty of trying to pedestal people. They teach people that you're a university grad, and so when you get out of this school, you're going to be in charge of people, and all this kind of, that's what they teach, man.
Well, I would ask the question, like, what rule or ruler is dictating the processes? It's called competition, right?
Yes.
And what is the best way to control mass herds of people is to make them compete against themselves. See, if I got to put my energy out here in order to try and quail you into a certain space, then it's going to be problematic. But if I can make you compete against you, you compete against you, then the division, the fractionalization is already occurring. So ever since you was in kindergarten, that first place ribbon, that second place ribbon, that third place ribbon, your team the Giants, your team the Jets, you from this state, they from that state, all type of fractionalized ideologies are constantly circulating through the mind, in the field, in the area, in the arena of competition. And no collaboration, not realizing that all of this goes together, because there couldn't be an up without a down. There couldn't be an in without an out. There couldn't be a to without a fro.
Okay, but then, let's talk about how the every child gets a ribbon, every child gets a trophy concept then. When we're talking about how the idea of competition definitely starts at a very young age. And there would be many who would argue that competition can be and should be a healthy thing. Like it's something that it's very good that we compete and have teams, you know. But what you and I are talking about is competition on an existence level. It's not sports. But then I don't think a lot of people can draw the distinction between the two, man. They all see their reality is what they're experiencing, and the competition. Picture the big city. It's hard to, if you're going to convince Toronto, Canada to all get along and work together as a team. That's not, I'm not going to say impossible. I'm not using the word impossible anymore. I already learned from Real Talk yesterday that the word impossible is not a good one, right? But it'd be very difficult, you know, complex, right? So yeah, that's a hard one to get around for me, is the idea that competition is toxic and
that's
good.
A very difficult one, because all of our lives, right, we've been given little aspects of the macrocosm through little microcosm things. Like we'll realize that world peace is actually tied to the little things you learned in kindergarten, the little things you learned in the household, right? And
these are like expressions of the same thing, is what you're suggesting.
Right. One is of a macrocosm perspective, and the other one is of a microcosm perspective.
A family and then a global family is another way to put it, I guess.
Yeah. So if we're talking about expanding, right, we have to expand to the realization that, okay, just because I think or you think that we physically may look differently, but in actuality, we look the same. We're various expressions of the same energy.
Okay. All right. Well, that takes a lot of respect and compassion for your fellow person. You know what I mean? And people are so different that's a hard one to swallow for some people. You know, that some people are very different than other people, than someone else.
Well, so they perceive.
There's a lot of friction there.
They think they're different.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
see, as you getting into, okay, like when a person, just say two people standing across from one another, and they're just going to start to identify the differences. Right?
Okay.
They're going to put all the things that they find different about themselves in one pot, and all the things that they find alike about themselves in the other pot.
Okay.
Most people would think that the difference pot will get full way faster than the alike pots, right? Because they'll associate all type of things. Well, I think like this. Well, I look like this. Or my ear is this. Or my this and that.
Sure.
Right?
I like green peppers, and this person likes olives, and yeah, sure.
Right. That'll go on, you know, as expanse as the imagination.
Oh yeah.
Yet when you start putting the similarities together, you're gonna not only deal with everything in the physical world and realize how it all connects, but then you're gonna go down into the metaphysics and the expanse of what we perceive as the universe, and realize how all things are connected. Then you go down into the quantum universe, and you'll realize how all things are connected. Because by the time you get beyond the skin suit, you know, and the things of that expression, people think that this stuff like racism and culture, ethnic division and things are physical situations. They're not. They're actually mental issues. And it's just not been diagnosed properly.
Sure, yeah. Hey, man, that is such a beautiful idea that if you create two lists, you fill two pots of what's different about us, and then fill the other pot with what's similar. I believe every time, every person, any age, any walk of life, any ethnicity, the pot that is similar is going to overflow compared to the one that has differences. I feel
easily.
Easily. I mean, like almost instantly. When you talk about the physical world, we're talking about that aspect of it, and then go into an internal thing. That's where I think it'll shine. That's where I think the differences in the physical world, our physical bodies and our physical experience, is where you'll see differences. Whereas if you take that away, or if you disregard that and you're going only in the internal world, I'd be surprised to see a lot of differences come out of the internal world, you know, making those two lists, right?
That differences pot will start to dwindle down to almost nothing.
Almost nothing.
Actually, it is nothingness. In fact, the things that people view as differences on the physical are actually only perspective related. Meaning that if you actually look at it, right, just say, I say that my ears are bigger than your ears.
How dare you? How dare you?
Right. I mean, there's all kind of avenues we can begin to identify things like that. But what if we view that as if everybody on the planet had the exact same size ears, wouldn't that be weird or unexpected?
Well, now we're gonna measure people's ears, man. We're gonna get to the bottom of this one.
Right, because see, and then the ears that I'm talking about are the spiritual ears of vibration, of being able to hear that inner truth, not my truth, not his truth, not their truth, but that inner truth. Because there's an inner truth inside each and every living being that speaks to that being, that being, depending on circumstance, situation, environmental, social structures, that vibration gets ignored, it gets looked over, it gets suppressed, it gets a lot of things. But there's an inner truth that speaks directly to what we're talking about, to that wholeness, to that balance.
All right, man. Jeez. There we go. Listen, man, let's pause for the cause for just a second here. You and I have about 7 people listening right now on stereo. I've got some people hanging out with me on the Twitch platform. And we're live talking about some deep philosophy concerning the concept of wholeness. So I'd encourage everybody on stereo there, give Dr. Bay a follow quickly. All right, it's been wonderful talking with him, and just make sure you don't lose him. All right, give him a quick follow on stereo. It takes half a second, and then you'll be able to sort of have these chats with him and around him again and again. The concept of wholeness and the definition of definitions is kind of what we could title this little chat that we're having here. I'm loving it, Doc. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today. The people on Twitch are loving it. Okay, I'll tell you right now on the Twitch platform, everybody's loving our talk. Do you have any social media that you'd like to share with anybody? Do you do any writing or anything that you want to, this sort of thing? Can you share it with people, or is this a part-time job for you, man? Is this a part-time gig, talking deep philosophy with me today?
Well, actually, brother, it's just simply I am that I am.
Right. Okay.
And I have platforms and different things that I participate in, in the physical reality.
Sure.
And all of them are geared toward guiding or steering or encouraging, would be a better word, encouraging people to look within with all of their endeavors. We do a lot of things out here, in the physical in order to get by or to make it or to find success, yet I think that we should start with the end result. We're taught to start with little pieces and build up, and I get it. And it creates a drive, it creates a strive. But yet if we start with wholeness and then begin to factor and figure out how things apply to that, once we get there, we've made a full circle. We've came back to and unto ourselves.
See, an interesting concept you raised just before, just a minute ago there was the ears. That it triggered in my mind an idea that the ear is not just the physical thing, it's also the tool that you use to hear things. It's also the idea of the ear. It's more than just a physical thing. So when we talk about people having different ears than us, on one level it might be different. It might be shaped a little differently or size or things like that. But on another side, we all share the same, it's always true that we all share that we use them to hear things, right? And so that's a truth that we all share. It's a similarity. That's something that
even amongst what's perceived as the difference, yet their purpose or their reason for existence is all the same.
Right. Well, I would put a more of a higher value on the reason for its existence part than on the shape, the physical part of it. Do you know what I mean? Like if a perfectly functioning ear of any color and shape and size is great, good, you're doing it. You know what I mean? You got it going on there, right? So
and even a person, because even a person that's considered to be deaf, right, or we'll say that he cannot hear, yet he'll end up being the greatest musician, alive. Or he'll be able to figure out ways because it's the vibration. See, even our physiological skin suits, that's what they are. These are just skin suits. These are avatars that we embrace in order to experience certain things of life that we were aware of before we were given the opportunity to actually indulge in them. Yet, when people look at things from a holistic perspective, it changes the narrative on everything and every aspect of life,
Right. Okay. So, yeah, man. Let me ask you this, okay? I don't think I've quite put this. I don't think I articulated this well enough earlier when we began talking. My definition of wholeness may be different than your definition of wholeness. You see? And so would it be said that we're trying to achieve two different things? Or could it be, as you suggested, that the truth is the truth and we all come to that? You can't lie to yourself is what you said earlier, which is very, very true, right? So eventually, no matter who you are and what you think wholeness is, you will all arrive at the same state, if enough work and truth to yourself is put in. Is that, sort of, is it, am I right about that? Did I get that right?
Because
yeah? Okay.
Yes, because see, when I'm expressing wholeness, it's like saying the all of all that exists, right? And here's what I mean by all that exists, right? We're just going to call it the all, right?
Okay.
To give a word destination to what I'm referring to. When you talk about the all, you can't add to the all, because where are you going to get it from?
Well, the all is the all. There's nothing to add. Yeah.
Where are you going to put it?
You're going to put it back in the all.
So there's no way around it. That's what wholeness and balance represents to me when I express it.
Okay. Some people might call that the concept of God, as an example. Both in theological teaching and both in philosophical sort of approach to the concept of God, the idea of God. For example, in the Christian faith, I brought this up before, that there's been an idea put forward by a Christian philosopher who said that the idea of God is that God is something to which there is nothing greater. And I don't I hope I'm not butchering this here. I really should read the quote carefully and say it carefully, but it's something like that. The idea is that there's a thing, it's a God, right? And the God is something to which there is nothing greater. There's nothing to add. There's nothing missing, right? That's the concept, and this is a philosophical concept put forth by a 15th, 16th century Christian philosopher, right? And so that what you just said there, the idea of wholeness being absolute, is a very similar idea. I would say there's comparisons, anyways. But then it would take somebody from a faith perspective would take that as in relation to God, in relation to a divine experience, and then the other people perhaps if they don't want to take it from a faith perspective, they could use the word wholeness, right? And maybe I don't want to say they're interchangeable, but I do see similarities there, is what I'm getting at. Which there's none greater, right?
In the grand scope of things, if people realize whatever particular angle or piece of the puzzle that people gravitate to, and they put an identity to it, whether it be God, Allah, Jehovah, Adonai, Krishna, Dia, Anu, they vary from culture to culture, or language to language, dialect to dialect, right?
Yep.
Yet all in all, they all parallel. See, that's what was blissfully endowed from within me, because I was allowed to travel down many of the paths I chose to. I wanted to travel all the paths, all the walks of life, right? And I see people arguing and bickering every day over terms and words, right? Not realizing that they all parallel. They're all one and the same. And people will have their conjecture to, okay, well, I see it this way, and ultimately, when you really just sit in that inner peace, you sit in the center of your circle, because you are the center of your universe, right? And you sit in the center, and everything revolves at an equal distance from the center. Every circle, no matter what circle it is, there's one point on that circle that's an equal distance to all points on that circle, and that's the center. So when you sit in the center of realization and you absorb all of these different dynamics of ideologies and understandings and understandings and overstandings, you realize that it's all whole, is all one.
Doc, yeah, man. This comes back to your idea that all roads do lead to the same path. That eventually you come to the one thing, which is the truth, which is wholeness, right? Just to remind people on stereo, you can interact with us. Go ahead and click the audio button, and if you have any comments or questions, just go ahead and don't be shy. You know what I mean? We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet you. Gnomes on Twitch here has a quick comment for us here, Doc. Gnomes is quoting Alan Watts. If you're familiar with the philosopher, sort of spiritual philosopher Alan Watts, he said, the attitude of faith is to let go and become open to truth, whatever it might turn out to be. You know. And so the beautiful Alan Watts, if you guys don't know who Alan Watts is, search YouTube, the ever quotable Alan Watts, saying things that just make your brain expand, you know? So there's Gnomes just sharing a little bit of Alan Watts with us there. And I would say that's true for what we're talking about today. That what we're talking about is letting go of the things that constrain us in relation to like our perception, right? The idea is that what we think we see as reality, what we think we see as our limits, you know, maybe it's time to sort of question those, let's say, or find out if it's true or not, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, what aided and what consistently aids me is the mission to not put so much of my energy into the divisive aspects of it. For example, you know, you mentioned Alan Watts. I mean, there are so many people who have titles and classifications, yet the energy to the message that they're projecting is one that is conducive to the side of benefiting the whole. So, and the names, I could just rattle off names.
Oh, there's all kinds. You know, yes, of course.
You know, and the thing is, it's the ingesting of the wholeness. Then if you see something that you even disagree with, right? Yeah. Challenge yourself. See, okay, because it exists, for me to even disagree with it, it must exist. So I need to figure out, okay, where does this fit in this puzzle?
Like, why am I rejecting
instead
this?
Of taking the piece and throwing it away just because I temporarily disagree with it because I'm not fully aware of its origin, is
Oh, reconnecting. Thanks for hanging out on Twitch, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. We're having a great talk with Doc. Maddie, it's wonderful to see you as usual. Come on back, Doc. I can't hear you, man. If you can hear me, you just disconnected for a sec there, so I'm just gonna hang out, wait until we're back together on stereo here. Supporting the stream is really easy, guys. If you are listening on stereo, visit the Twitch page. All right, you just search Archaeologistic on Twitch and give a little follow there, so it doesn't cost you anything, of course, and you can just watch the show live as I talk to people. Make sure you give Doc a follow on stereo, on the stereo platform there. Wonderful person. Having a good one. Gnomes is on Twitch is suggesting this is his favorite conversation so far, and I'm feeling it. You know, Maddie's along for the ride. It's great. My Twitch fam's in the house. Knight Rider, thanks very much for the follow. All right, all the love on Twitter. You guys are retweeting things. Whenever I go live, I do a little tweet. You know what I mean? A little tweet, right? And so people sending that out is awesome. Come on back, Doc. Come on, man. Yeah, everybody on stereo platform, you can participate live in the conversation. Don't be shy. I'd love to hear from you. I'm sure Doc would too. Asking questions or any kind of insight you might have to offer concerning what we're talking about today. Which, generally speaking here, is the definition of definition. This is what I'm going to call this chat here. The definition of definition and the concept of wholeness. This is deep philosophy. Welcome to Philosophy Corner. Is what I got to say to you guys, okay? But it's really good stuff. It's awesome that Gnomes brought up Alan Watts. Guys, if you don't know who Alan Watts is, he was a British guy who just sort of picture like Eastern philosophy, right? And so he expounded a lot of really, really amazing things, and he gave really powerful talks in particular. And so really articulate and saying incredibly beautiful concepts. So Alan Watts, the Alan Watts Foundation, I believe is what it's called. And now that he's passed, his family runs the show of his sort of thoughts, you know, and I'd call them teachings, but it's more like Alan would just sort of free flow himself. It's a very personal experience listening to Alan Watts. Alan would share, it felt like it came from the heart, you know? So just have a listen and see if you agree with me. It's a beautiful, beautiful stuff, right? And there's a really great video game, by the way, because I'm streaming on Twitch. Hey, I play video games. It's a game called Everything that uses Alan Watts quotes while you're playing the game. And so you're experiencing this open world of beautifulness, and then Alan starts talking about how you fit into the universe and how everything's balanced. And yeah, it's really, really good stuff for sure. Really, really good stuff. Thanks very much for the follows on Stereo, guys. I am new to the Stereo platform, so yeah, I've just experienced a lot of love and acceptance from a lot of the Stereo community. And there is a Stereo community. There's people who come around all the time on Stereo. I'm starting to see the same names already come over and over again, which is really great. That's people who really like to engage in conversation and listen to others, right? So simple as that. I highly encourage the Twitch people to please install the Stereo app if you want to interact with us on that level. It's you can press an audio button and actually say something, and then we'll play it on the show, right? So it's another way to talk. If you don't feel like typing, right, in the Twitch chat, then you go ahead and just do that, right? It's super simple. So what I'm already noticing is it says it's connecting with Doc, and we're actually going to give him just another minute here. I don't want to lose him, so we're just going to hang out for just a sec while the Stereo app reconnects with Doc, and with any luck, it's going to connect. What I'm already noticing is that I come into sort of deep conversations with some people here on Stereo that it's not a pattern, right? It's just that this is what people want to talk about, right? And so when we come into big ideas like our connection with the universe, our place in the universe, our experience in the universe, right? I notice that people want to talk about that. And this is two total strangers. And what did they gravitate towards the conversation? Like big, deep, beautiful things, right? And so that's wonderful, right? Because you guys right now could be listening to Doc and I just talking about hockey scores from 1976, or you know, the latest episodes of the Walking Dead series thing. You know what I mean? Like which I'm not putting that down. I mean that's a value to someone who wants to listen to it. But I'm noticing already that Stereo, there's a lot of people who want to talk about some big ideas, right? They want to share their personal experiences, and they want to. They want to share, like they want their perspectives on some pretty complex stuff, right? And so I'm loving that. All right, guys, I love that, right? And I'm not shy. That's why I'm here, you know. So to be able to talk, get some deep talk, some meaningful talk. Hopefully, we're getting some value out of this today. I know I'm learning a lot, you know. It looks like we've lost Doc. Oh,
right, so I'd stop and
oh no. Where are you, Doc? I'm going to do a quick search for him, just so I make sure I follow him there so I can get him back another time for you guys, okay? Bam. All right, we followed Doc. I'm glad we had that chat. It looks like we've disconnected from him. This happened to me yesterday with Stereo, if you remember. I just sort of got disconnected from a pretty great conversation. I don't think Stereo has any limits to how long you can talk or anything's going. It's just connections of stuff. And imagine the complex magic trick that this is. I mean, you're connecting two people from around the world through a phone app. I'm emulating a phone app on a Windows machine through an Android emulator. Then I'm streaming it on Twitch through other softwares. And there's a lot of satellites and money I didn't spend involved in this. So I appreciate any way this is working. Okay, I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm not going to put it down. You know what I mean? So, we're off Stereo for the moment, guys, which means I'm back with you solely on Twitch. So, how's it going? All right, that was a great conversation. I try my best with the flow of conversation. I try not to interrupt with little comments and things, but I see them. Everything you post there on the Twitch chat there, I definitely read them, and if I get a chance, I can actually sort of say, hey, this person's offering this, you know what I mean? And so I'll do my very best to sort of balance that, right? I just try not to interrupt someone when they're talking. It's part of being a good conversationalist, which I'm not sure I am, and I don't get to judge that anyways. You guys decide whether I talk to these people well or not. It is a pleasure to meet a guy like Doc, though. All right, that was excellent. You know, love it. And so maybe we're just gonna call that the podcast for today. All right, because I might just come back and do another one in a few hours, right? And so we'll do two for today, but I keep them as separate files basically. So. Yeah, this is available on Spotify. It's available on Google Podcasts and a bunch of other platforms. Okay, so if you it's on the Anchor platform, right? So if you go to my Anchor page, for example, there's all the links to all the stuff, right? And then the podcast is right there anyways. Anchor is owned by Spotify, and so it just sort of automatically integrates with Spotify beautifully, so you can go ahead and just add it that way, or use Google Podcast or anything else if you want to re-listen to this sort of stuff. All right, thanks very much for the support, guys. Thanks for the follows on Stereo. Thanks for the follows on Twitch. All right, I really hope you're enjoying these conversations. I'm phoning random people from around the world. We're talking to random people from around the world, and whatever that subject might be, whatever that experience might look like. I thought it would be more of a car crash than it is. Okay, I thought it would be like not podcast worthy. But as it turns out, the average person isn't so average, and it's so wonderful to connect with people on a significant level and make those connections and hear what they have to say about. I'll talk about anything, you know what I mean? It's okay, you know what I mean? So, I'm just gonna leave it at that, guys. I want to thank you all for coming along for the ride with Dr. Bay. Okay, was on the Stereo app there. You can find him by searching Dr. Bay. You'll be able to see this entire broadcast again on YouTube. I use it as a repository. Twitch, of course, it sticks around for about a couple weeks on Twitch, and then all the recording's gone, right? So YouTube, if you want to rewatch this again and again and again and again. If you have an Amazon subscription, by all means, drop your subscriptions here. That really supports the show. All right, it's free for you and it's amazing for me. Keep in mind that it's $5 American, but that's like $8 Canadian. Like, it's like, yeah. Well, I live in a place that the money's terrible, right? So it's a lot of money to me. Every subscription is like, oh, I can eat today. I'm just kidding. I'm not that hurting. And you know what? You keep your money if you need it. Okay. I'm just, yeah. Just going to put that out there. You can subscribe to the Twitch stream, and it's a great way to support the stream. Okay, guys. I'll be monetizing this podcast thing at some point in time. I'm not too sure exactly when, because right now the Anchor platform doesn't allow monetization in Canada. So right now I want to go with an ad-free format, or just jump in, start, everything's great, no ads, right? Which I personally love. You know what I mean? Like yeah. Anyways, Gnomes, Maddie, thanks for hanging out. All right, Knight Rider, thanks very much for the follow, guys. Thanks for the Twitter love, guys. Thanks for the Stereo love. All right, and we will I'll come back and see you. We'll be doing this again tomorrow for sure, maybe even later on today. So just keep those notifications live, and we'll have a chat with someone weird and wonderful from around the world. All right, take care for now. Ciao.